Hello there, it's Dan here, Senior Physiologist and Clinic Manager from Nuffield Health. I'm here today to give you a presentation on sleep and well-being. So most of us will experience a lack of quality sleep from time to time, and for some this endures over the long term. It may also be that the pandemic is affecting sleep, as we may have more on our minds at the moment. Getting to the root of the problem is important, and small adaptations to your lifestyle can make a big difference to your sleep. So that's really the focus of the presentation today, what we can do from a lifestyle perspective to help with our quality and duration of sleep. So why do we sleep? Well, most of us acknowledge that sleep helps us feel better. We feel more alert, more energetic, happier and better able to function following a good night's sleep. However, the fact that sleep makes us feel better only begins to explain why sufficient good quality sleep is necessary. Although it's not fully understood, our bodies require adequate sleep in order to restore and rejuvenate, to grow muscle, repair tissue and synthesize hormones. Most people don't realise they're sleep deprived. Your baseline level of how you think your health and wellness can become low, and you may end up just accepting it. You may not have been firing on all cylinders for quite some time, and often we don't realise that if we can make small changes to our lifestyle, there's a better form of you waiting out there. So today we're going to discuss the benefits of prioritising your sleep and some top tips to improve it. First of all though, let's look at the impact of poor sleep. Poor sleep can affect almost every process and system in our body, including the hormones that regulate our appetite, blood sugar levels, fat metabolism, muscle growth, cognitive function and immune system. So in relation to blood sugar control, those sleeping less than 6 hours per night have repeatedly been shown to be at an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. In one study, healthy individuals were restricted to 6 hours sleep for 1 week. At the end of the week of shorter sleep, their blood sugar levels were affected so significantly they were close to being at the levels of someone with pre-diabetes. Poor sleep can contribute to weight gain, and this is due to the fact that lack of sleep increases levels of the hunger hormone called ghrelin and decreases levels of the hormones that suppress our appetite, an important one of which is called leptin. Combined with the impact of poor sleep on our blood sugar levels, this can lead to increased cravings for and consumption of refined carbohydrates and high fat foods. In addition, if you're feeling lethargic and tired, you're less likely to exercise and more likely to take shortcuts like using the lift rather than the stairs. This decreases the amount of calories you're burning, which has a direct effect on your weight. Particularly as a lot of us are working at home at the moment, this impact can be even more significant on weight control. So in relation to some hormones that are integral to the body, a lack of sleep can cause a reduction in growth hormone, which is integral in helping the body to use fat as an energy source. Growth hormone is also important for muscle growth and repair, and a reduction in growth hormone can limit muscle and strength training gains. So yes, I'm sure those of you who go to the gym and are looking to build up muscle mass and strength will hopefully know that you're sabotaging your training gains by not sleeping enough and sleeping well. Some recent research has also shown that poor sleep can have an effect on brain function and may contribute to certain types of mental illnesses and also certain types of dementia. So the deep brain center controlling emotions, such as the amygdala, is up to 60% more reactive when you are sleep deprived as opposed to when you've had a good night's sleep. And the amygdala, that's you can think of that as the caveman part of your brain, the part that makes quick fight or flight type responses to high stress situations. And you therefore may notice that you're a little more irritable and reactive to things when you're sleep deprived. Poor sleep is also linked to depression and anxiety. During the day, brain cells build connections with other parts of the brain, and as a result, build connections with other parts of the brain as a result of new experiences. During sleep, important connections are strengthened and unimportant ones are pruned. This allows for us to form memories and aids in our learning. Sleep's also an opportunity for the brain to be cleared of waste products. Recent research has linked consistently poor sleep to increased buildup of proteins in the brain, which may be linked to an increased risk of Alzheimer's, a form of dementia. Immune system can also become affected. Certain disease-fighting substances are released or created when we sleep. Sleep deprivation can decrease the availability of these substances, and this can leave us more susceptible to infection. For example, individuals limited to 4 hours sleep for one night saw a 70% drop in NK, or natural killer cells. These are wonderful immune assassins that help to decrease cancer risk and are part of our innate immune system to help fight infection. Poor sleep's also been linked with high blood pressure, atherosclerosis, which is clogging of the arteries, heart failure, heart attack and stroke. There are a number of mechanisms proposed, one being the increase in stress hormone cortisol, which can result in an elevated heart rate and blood pressure. For most people, blood pressure falls at night. It could be that with shorter sleep, it's just not enough time for that dip to take place, and over time this can lead to higher blood pressure. So there are short-term benefits for sleep. We have more energy, we make better food choices, we're just nicer to be around. Our relationships are better when we've slept well. In the long term, sleep deprivation is associated with pretty much every single chronic disease, including type 2 diabetes, obesity, heart disease, and many other disease areas. It's also important to note that having a bad night's sleep happens to all of us, and many of the negative health consequences only occur when the sleep deprivation becomes chronic. So how much sleep do we need? Well, the majority of healthy adults require around 7.5 to 8.5 hours of sleep per night. Only a very small percentage can perform ideally on 6 hours. It's also important to take into account the opportunity to sleep, i.e. if you need 8 hours sleep, you also need to factor in the time it takes you to fall asleep. Sleep quality, however, is just as important as sleep duration. There are 5 stages of sleep, with stage 4 being the deepest. The stage vital for regulating our hormones and systems. Stage 5, referred to as active sleep or REM sleep, is where dreaming takes place. REM sleep stimulates the brain regions used in learning and memory formation. You cycle through all 5 stages several times. Around 5 sleep cycles is recommended for sleep quality. To assess whether you're getting sufficient sleep duration and quality, ask yourself these 3 questions. Do you wake up feeling refreshed? If yes, then your sleep is likely to be deep enough and restorative enough. Do you wake up at roughly the same time each day? Without an alarm, give or take 30 minutes. If yes, your body's circadian rhythm or body clock is in good shape. And lastly, can you fall asleep within 10 to 20 minutes of trying? If yes, then this suggests you're winding down effectively, and another indication of a happy body clock. If you're consistently falling asleep in much less time than this or much more time than this, your body may be trying to tell you something. So let's move on to next looking at some practical tips for a good night's sleep. Our behaviours during the day, and especially before bedtime, can have a major impact on our sleep and affect the normal sleep cycle. Creating the right conditions for sleep through a series of healthy sleep habits is a cornerstone of a good night's sleep. Now let's focus on the 5 key tips shown through research to aid sleep. You might find one of these resonates more with you than others. My advice is to choose one to start with, make the change and assess the impact. Once you've formed a new habit, and then move on to the next change. It's then more easy to see which things are really having the bigger impact. I would argue that just as children need bedtime routines, us adults also need a set of practices and rituals to prepare us for sleep. Our brains are very associative organs. So number 1, switch off technology at least 60 minutes before bed. Our sleep is regulated by light and dark cycles. When the sun goes down and darkness occurs, our body starts actively producing melatonin, the hormone that makes us feel sleepy. Artificial light, and in particular blue light emitted from LED lighting screens such as our phones, tablets and laptops, can disrupt the body clock and lower or prevent the production of melatonin. So My advice would be to switch off all technology 90 minutes before bed. If that sounds too much, try 60 or 30 minutes and then build it up. Keep your phone and laptop out of the room. You can have an alarm clock, but perhaps lose the retro 80s style neon alarm clock, which reminds you you're not sleeping when you wake up in the night. Dim the lights in your house an hour before bed. You'd be surprised how sleepy you can become. Use blackout curtains or wear an eye mask if there are sources of light that it's hard to stop getting into your room. When we have turned the bedroom into a kitchen, office, cinema, etc., this can impact adversely on the brain's association with sleep. Therefore, keep televisions and laptops out of the bedroom. Don't eat or work in the bedroom either, ideally. Get 20 to 30 minutes of natural daylight. Even if it's cloudy, you will be exposed to more daylight than a well-lit office. When your body and face is exposed to sunlight, it increases the production of serotonin, which is a precursor to melatonin. So getting out in the sun in the morning ramps up the production of serotonin. In turn, after 12 hours or so, this serotonin is converted into melatonin, helping us sleep later that night. Number 2, enjoy your caffeine, but before noon. Caffeine binds to adenosine receptors, one of the key hormones involved in helping us to drift off to sleep. Caffeine can inhibit adenosine's action and make us feel more alert and less sleepy, which is why we often turn to it when we're trying to stay up later. As caffeine is a stimulant like most drugs, it has a half-life, which is the amount of time it takes for half of the caffeine consumed to be excreted out of our body. Depending on your sensitivity to caffeine and your genes, it takes on average around 6 to 7 hours to metabolize half a standard cup of coffee. However, it has a quarter life of up to 12 hours. To put it in context, if you drink a standard mug of instant coffee, around 100 milligrams of caffeine at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you may still have 50 milligrams in your body at 8 p.m. and 25 milligrams by 11 p.m, i.e. the same as getting into bed and drinking a quarter of a cup of coffee. Now, there will be people who say this doesn't affect me. I can drink a coffee just before bed and I'm fine. Well, there is some research, however, that indicates even if you think you're fine and you can fall asleep okay, you don't always access the same deep levels of sleep and REM sleep that you need to restore and regenerate the body if you've caffeine in your system. Now, caffeine does have some benefits, and generally up to 400 milligrams per day or 4 cups of instant coffee is not believed to have negative effects for most. However, bear in mind the timing of your intake. So enjoy your coffee, but try to consume it before midday. Give it a go for a week and see if you notice a difference. Furthermore, we all have our own personal threshold. We can deal with multiple insults up to a point. If your life is less stressful, you're further away from this threshold. If it's the opposite, you're closer to it and your body will be less likely to manage your coffee in the same way. This also applies to alcohol. Remember also, the caffeine content in different drinks varies. Caffeine is also present in quite high amounts in some energy drinks, teas, colas. Green tea is often one that people perceive has no caffeine, but often it does have some caffeine. And in small amounts, you do find caffeine in foods like chocolate too. So number 3, avoid alcohol to improve sleep quality. Alcohol is technically a sedative, and sedation is not sleep. While you may find alcohol helps you fall asleep, it's not a natural sleep, and it can fragment your sleep, inhibiting levels of deep sleep. Alcohol blocks dream or REM sleep, critical for emotional first aid. In the course of a night, we usually have 6 or 7 cycles of REM sleep, during which our brains process the information we have absorbed during the day. This leaves us feeling refreshed. But a night of drinking means we'll typically only have 1 or 2 cycles and may wake up feeling tired and unrefreshed. Avoid consuming alcohol 2 hours before you intend to sleep. None, of course, is better, and find alternatives to wind down and relax, which we'll come on to in a short while. So number 4 is building a consistent bedtime routine. Keeping a consistent sleep schedule by getting up at the same time every day and going to bed at the same time. This programs the brain and the internal body clock or circadian rhythms to get used to a set routine. Try to avoid social jet lag i.e. sleeping in too late at the weekend and then on Sunday trying to drag your body clock back. Now let's look at some ideas if you're unable to sleep. If you can't get to sleep, get up, get out of bed and go to a different room and do something non-stimulating, such as reading in a dim light for 20 to 30 minutes, then return to bed. Sleep experts recommend that if worry is keeping you awake, get up and do an activity that distracts your mind from worry, such as a puzzle, before trying to go to sleep again. If you're unable to get to sleep after 20 to 30 minutes, then get up again. Repeat until you sleep. This sounds hard, but it's probably necessary, because if you lie in bed unable to sleep for long periods, your brain may begin to associate bed with wakefulness and maybe agitation. The only way to break this cycle is by realigning the sleep-bed association. In order to strengthen the connection between nighttime and sleep behaviour and the bed, you may need to ban any daytime napping. It's essential to associate both the night and the bed with sleep and the day with wakefulness. Although napping can be really useful in some circumstances, particularly for people who are involved in night shifts or difficult shift patterns or on-call work, it's probably best avoided in general. And if you do nap, then try to limit it to only 10 to 15 minutes or so. Much longer than this, and it can end up impacting on your body clock. So I'd also recommend avoiding falling asleep on the sofa in the evening, because that tends to affect your ability to sleep well when you do get to bed. Establish a relaxing bedtime routine. Establishing a relaxing bedtime routine wind down can be a really effective way to help yourself get off to sleep in a timely fashion. Children sleep well when they have a specific routine associated with bedtime, and so do we. As such, try to develop a wind down routine at least 60 minutes before you go to bed. This period should involve ceasing doing stimulating activities such as paperwork, checking emails. I recommend dimming your lights, switching off electronic devices, and instead engaging in a more relaxing activity, such as having a bath, listening to relaxing music, reading a relaxing book, perhaps even an audiobook or a podcast or something like that. A relaxing wind down routine also helps to manage stress and lower levels of the energizing hormone cortisol, which is a sleep disruptor. The worried mind and stress are one of the main disruptors of our sleep, and it's key to find ways that help manage your stress that work for you. Your routine depends on what works for you, but the most important thing is working out a routine and sticking to it. I will mention some really useful resources at the end of this presentation that are really handy if you are feeling that high levels of stress or anxiety are affecting your sleep at the moment, and particularly those surrounding the impact of the pandemic. So exercising during the day can help you to sleep better at night. It certainly can have a positive impact on sleep quality, and improving your sleep quality means you're less likely to be too tired in the day to exercise. Yin and yang, really. One of the factors for the role of exercise in sleep quality lies in the benefits of exercise on stress management. But the intensity of exercise and the time of day that it's performed can be an important consideration in determining whether exercise is a benefit or detriment to your sleep. Some people do have difficulty falling asleep after bouts of vigorous exercise late in the evening. Exercising raises your core body temperature, increases your heart rate, and promotes the release of stimulating hormones like adrenaline, which makes us feel alert. Thus, exercising too close to bedtime, particularly at a high intensity, may impair sleep for some. It's important to note that late evening workouts don't have the same effect on everybody. So if they're not interfering with your sleep, then there's no need to switch your routine. If you already have trouble getting to sleep, it may be worth avoiding exercising at high intensity close to bedtime and choosing a more relaxing mode of activity such as yoga or a walk instead. Personally, I find that the exercise itself doesn't impact on me getting off to sleep and sleeping well too much. It's more that if I return home from exercising late in the evening, such as around 9 p.m, then I'll probably want to have a bit of wind down time before I go to bed, meaning that I'll then end up going to bed around an hour later, shortening my duration of sleep. So it can affect in different ways as well. Just experiment with what works for you really, and you can track your sleep patterns to see, if that's something that does affect you or not. And it may take a bit of trial and error to work these things out with all of these lifestyle changes really. So Yeah, exercising late in the evening for most people is probably better avoided if it's very vigorous, and if you do very vigorous exercise, you could try something like a hot bath or shower afterwards to help lower your body temperature when you get out, which can be a trigger for the body to get ready for sleep. So in summary, switch off electronic devices an hour before bed and dim the lights. Aim to avoid caffeine consumption post midday. Avoid alcohol before bedtime. Establish a relaxing wind down routine. Exercise gently in the evening. Oh, it's also on here practicing mindfulness before bedtime, which interestingly wasn't actually mentioned in the slide itself, but that's another good option for something that can help to relax your body and brain before bed. And establish a bedtime sleep and wake routine. So after today's quick tips, if you'd like to explore the topic of sleep and particularly managing the effect of the pandemic and the various restrictions may be having on some people's sleep, then I'd definitely recommend taking a look at the Silver Cloud programme on sleep called Space for Sleep, or the sleep section in the Space from COVID-19 programme. If you didn't know, Silver Cloud's a free mental health support website with lots of interesting content and is designed to help you take a proactive approach to your mental health, i.e. it's not just for those who aren't feeling great. There are also lots of shorter, more punchy sleep articles on the Nuffield Health Articles website. I've included the links to these websites above, so you could pause the slide and note those down. It's important to say that sleep difficulties, however, are not always resolvable with lifestyle strategies and advice such as we've covered today, and can on occasions be related to more underlying medical causes. If you are really struggling with your sleep, and particularly if you've tried some lifestyle strategies to begin with and they're not really making much impact, I would recommend that you speak to your GP, or you could use the Vodafone virtual GP service, which is available at the moment, who could give you some advice. And again, here's a slide that I've covered before in previous webinars on some of the wellbeing support services that are available to you folks at Vodafone. So I mentioned Silver Cloud, which, as I say, has a wealth of good support, self-help guides on mental health, emotional health. The medical solutions virtual GP appointments are available to all UK employees as well. You've got your mental health first aiders who are Vodafone employees specifically trained to support and signpost you to relevant mental health support services. You've got the EAP programme in the bottom left corner there, which is a third-party run service where you can get advice on a wealth of different topics relating to your health and well-being. You've got the option of a free online health assessment, which is also something that I am involved in. I'm conducting those from home at the moment. We've got the Wellbeing community on Workplace that you can find out various up-to-date topics on health and wellbeing initiatives within Vodafone. And all of the information above and links to these services can be found on the Wellbeing SharePoint. If you click Wellbeing support on the landing page, it should take you there. So thank you very much for listening into the sleep presentation today. And if you do happen to have any questions, you're more than welcome to email me at vodafone@nuffieldhealth.com, and I will be able to get back to you on there. So yeah, great to speak to you again, and I look forward to speaking to you on another webinar soon. Thank you and bye.